Bonjour, ça va? I hope you're well on this Friday evening. And if you're just watching SmackDown, thank you very much for watching SmackDown with the lads over on Gimme a Hell Yeah. We are back on Gimme a Hell Yeah. We are back on Wrestling Royalty, and we are going to be discussing. I'm turning to Sean Connery, apparently. We're going to be discussing Backlash and previewing, predictions, all that good stuff. If you did watch SmackDown and you were wondering, like I was, what was with the French audience and the song they were singing? It was Il est vraiment phenomenal. Apparently, it's just a big party song by someone called Phenomenal Club. It's a French anthem, so very sort of football-esque. But the French crowd certainly did themselves proud tonight with SmackDown. Very loud. That's what we like to hear. Get them across back to Europe more and more. We've obviously got the Germany show coming up in August. Bash it within, and of course, they're coming back to the UK. They'll be in Scotland for Clash at the Castle 2. And we're still hoping to be there. We will be covering it. It doesn't matter whether we're there or whether we're here. We will definitely be covering it. But we will do our utmost to be inside the building when they come back in what promises to be an even better atmosphere. Because let's face it, the UK crowd is the best in the world. And we will always say that as well. But well done to Leon, not Leon or whatever it is that they're saying. It's Leon. That's how I've always understood to say it. I will introduce you to one of the said people who was doing the SmackDown stream and get his instant thoughts on SmackDown. I'll introduce you to my normal partner in crime on a Friday evening, Mr. Sam Smith. Here he is. How are you doing?
I'm enjoying the fact that I'm doing a Wrestling Royalty stream before SmackDown. No, after SmackDown.
After SmackDown, yeah.
For the first time ever. That is amazing. Like, what a buzz. And got the Uncle Howdy one to come about, I don't know, 9:30. I think we tentatively set it for. But if we go later, it will make it 10. Who knows? Who cares?
Yeah, because there was another sort of, I don't think it was shown on TV, but it was shown, like there's some social media clips going around that I believe Mark was tagged Gimme Hell Yeah in.
I think so. Yeah, Mark and Misfit are usually our eyes and ears. So
yeah, the spooky music was playing again during an advert break inside the arena, and a lot of loud chants for "Thank you, Bray," and things like that. So I'm sure Dom, whenever he joins tonight and covers it, or if he does cover it today or tomorrow, he'll be keen to speak about one of his favorite subjects in professional wrestling, which is all things spooky. And at the moment, that is very much included in Howdy's Hangout. However, we are here tonight. Is Dan joining, or is he done?
No, he's done. He's got an early shift, so he's joined me for SmackDown. But now he's going to go and he's got a load of stuff to do, and then he's going to go to bed. So it's just you and me, business as usual.
Fair enough. I mean, I was going to tell him how I thought his haircut was looking very spiffy. He was looking remarkable tonight. So always good to see Dan on the blue brand.
Fortune on his various hair things, and Dom too, because they look different every time I see them.
Yeah, that is true.
So it must cost a fortune.
I'm also going to kick things off tonight by saying congratulations to Joe Henry. Might not have been the number one that he was hoping for, but he got a very respectable number 6 overall, a number 4 on the downloads, which is incredible. So you've got to remember, professional wrestling to us, obviously doing this and being a fan, feels like it's all encompassing. It feels like the most important thing in the world. But he was going up against people that have been in this business for ages, people like Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Joe Henry has more than held his own. And as I said on Twitter, Joe Henry has become, his theme is the best selling and highest charting song ever in terms of professional wrestling themes. So congratulations again to Joe Henry. We all believed in you. We still believe in you. And if you didn't catch it last night, the TNA that he did to Creed Higher was fantastic as well. So if you haven't seen that, go check out his apology to AJ Francis, not AJ Lee, as Sam mistakenly said in the week. AJ Francis, and let's see if he manages to make it a night to remember and appears on tonight's Under Siege card if he sneaks on there somehow. TNA, yes.
Where can you read the latest interview with Joe Henry?
Well, As I did just say, I believe in Joe Henry so much that I reached out to TNA and managed to bag myself an exclusive interview. I had a good chat. It was about 10, 15 minutes with Joe Henry on his birthday of all days as well. And he gave me a good rundown of where the idea came from to release that theme, some of his favorite themes and the kind of like Mick take songs that he's done in the past, as well as talk a little bit about Taylor Swift as well. So
yeah,
always a pleasure to speak to Joe Henry. He's also threw a little bit out there for North. He fancies getting in the ring with Elijah, which is cool. And he's going to be in the ring either way with Elijah up in Discovery Wrestling in Edinburgh, and he's going to be teaming with him. So watch this space if you're up in the north, whether it be the northeast or even further. Go past the wall and into Scotland. You've got a chance to see Elijah. I think he's doing a few appearances over that weekend, so
north of the wall.
I'm sure you'll be able to catch him. But yeah, fantastic place to go read all about Joe Henry is if you go and log on to either WrestleSphere or SoundSphere. If your bag's a little bit more long form feature, go check out SoundSphere and I get to flex that creative muscle. Or if you just want to see my interview skills and a little bit more from Joe Henry, go check out WrestleSphere. Or if you're a true fan, go check out both. And there's plenty of content on there because we've got interviews with lots of TNA stars like Ash by Elegance. We've got a lot of things on there. Feature pieces seem to be springing up a lot. We've got another feature writer, Joe, who does a fantastic job, an absolute wordsmith and a man after my own heart. So if you want to go check out some quality writing, some quality interviews, WrestleSphere is the place for that. But we are here tonight to talk about Backlash. Instant thoughts on SmackDown that you've just seen and the sort of crowd and what we're building to.
I didn't see much of it. I was too busy yakking with Dan. But no, I'm joking. It was great. No, it was all right. It wasn't like do you know what it was, Andy? It was a go home show, which means it was a hype show, low on substance, high on hype. But that's all it needed to be because it's a go home show. It's all it needed to do was we needed to see a moment where we saw an epic promo off between AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, which for me, by the way, is a goddamn dream match. So again, I've followed Cody since obviously he was in WWE, AEW, right, Ring of Honor, New Japan, TNA. He had a good run in TNA. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
I've been a Cody guy for many years, always known who he is. AJ, I remember watching some of his early stuff in TNA and being like, this guy's a goddamn prodigy. And now these two worlds, these two planets in the same orbit have collided. And we are getting an event horizon tomorrow night at Backlash. And I am... it's like I said on the SmackDown stream, I don't need there to be a massive storyline or a hard-hitting feud for this one, Andy. I just need to see these two guys do their thing because this is enough. Do you know what I mean? This doesn't need to be Roman versus Cody. This is great. And I really think I'm confident of the result, but you just never know. Yeah.
As you say, sometimes, and I know AEW gets knocked a little bit for this because they seem to have this as more of a staple of who's the better wrestler, who's the better man. But because it's not done that often in WWE, it can and does have a place, and it can and does have a place in AEW. And I think sometimes they're too heavy on that. But because WWE is very storyline centric and very much a case of like storytelling, it's quite refreshing to have actually, we're two Georgia boys, let's see who's the best. And they haven't had to throw too much mud, like a little bit today, yes, but this is more because of that's AJ Styles' character right now.
Yeah.
In terms of the little slap at the end and things like that. So it's an easy one to kind of to get involved in. And it does boost AJ Styles' character a little bit. We don't need much more than that. So tomorrow night should just be left to be a wrestling exhibition and give them, half an hour. That would be good to see two guys, the champion and someone who's considered one of the best to ever step in the ring in terms of wrestling. Let them have a load of time. It's not a big card as we go through it tonight. We're not going to be on long because I think there's 5 matches. So we'll discuss them, but let's break it down. But yeah,
one more thing. Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate. It's your show. I know. I've just had mine, so I need to
you go.
shut up. But I'm like, the Bullet Club stuff that WWE leaned into tonight was excellent, because Vince didn't like doing that, because it wasn't. Let's be honest, Bullet Club is indeed copying the NWO, the DX, which is in turn copied the Click, which in turn copied something else. But again, it's like you can't get away from Cody and AJ's history and massive parts of their career as members of Bullet Club. So the fact that that was brought up tonight is great storytelling, and it actually leaves me with a little bit of hope that WWE and New Japan might be talking and being like, because we've got a Bullet Club contingent in AEW and Ring of Honor, because obviously they're sister promotions. We've got a Bullet Club contingent in TNA. We know we've got Bullet Club alumni like the Good Brothers, AJ, Finn Balor, because they've tapped into it before in WWE. Like, what if they just made it official? What if they made it official for the first time? And that would be one hell of a moment. And I think tonight we actually saw the first step towards that. So there's a lot to be excited by at the moment in terms of the Forbidden Door and WWE being part of that.
Yeah, and I think they've been, slowly kind of like leaking and like even like this stuff with the TNA and having people on from the Royal Rumble, etc.
Yeah.
Like they're open for business. And I think they're very much a case of like, hey, if it's good for business, it's good for us. And that's a great attitude to have, rather than be like, nah, we're a closed shop. We don't need anyone else. In some respects, it would be a little bit arrogant to do that when you've got great talent elsewhere. But there's a reason why WWE is number one. But it's nice if they kind of like acknowledge the big things in wrestling, like they did tonight with Bullet Club, because it almost feels like it's its own thing on its own island, and you have to kind of, well, previously you have to disregard anything that's happened in the past, so or elsewhere. So yeah, very nice touch for that. I actually thought, and we'll get into it. I love Paul Heyman stuff. The Paul Heyman stuff was very interesting tonight, especially the stuff with Nick Aldis backstage. So we will get into that very, very shortly. But if you are watching along tonight, thank you very much. Make sure you drop a comment. Let us know you're watching, what you're excited for, and what your predictions as well. So we've got Mr. Juan Fonseca, who's I don't even know what those emojis are on the end. They look like cinnamon crunch or something.
It's a hand wave and an angry soap. That's how I interpreted it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But hello,
completely wrong.
Nice to have you.
Hey, Mark.
I hope you're not angry. Mark, obviously our faithful moderator and bringer of information and news while we're live. He's a good source of information for us. Mark says, why does AJ look like he's doing a hair advert?
That popped us both. If you didn't notice, when we saw that popped us both, didn't it, Andy, when we saw that?
Well, AJ Styles, since he's been in WWE, at least, has always looked like he's come out of like a Pantene or L'Oreal. Yeah, because he's worth it. That's why.
Definitely is.
So let's start with that big angle they did tonight, because I actually thought there was my favorite part of SmackDown tonight was A, the crowd, but B, you also had this running theme. It ended with these guys brawling, and they really kind of built this animosity. But the person who's built this the best is Paul Heyman. He's been the MVP in the short time that they've been building this tag match. Now, if you did miss SmackDown, where have you been? But we'll fill you in. Basically, Paul Heyman was seen backstage talking to Nick Aldis and begging him to call this match off, pull Kevin Owens, Randy Orton out of the match. He was told no. Nick Aldis made a little bit of a sort of out of hand comment saying, like, why don't you ask the tribal chief, or is this on the, are you here on the word of the tribal chief? And Paul Heyman admitted he hasn't actually spoken to him since WrestleMania, and he was the one who pulled Roman out of the draft last week, much to the chagrin of Nick Aldis. He was then a guest. Paul Heyman was on a guest on the RKO show, or whatever it was called, which went down with the French audience. Kevin Owens spoke a little bit of French to pop them. Obviously, he is from Canada, and the sort of French-Canadian link came in handy there. A good spot. Paul Heyman tried to like talk them out of it. They were having none of it, and then they got jumped from behind by Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa, who basically just brawled around the ring for a little bit, building this up. Are you excited for this tag match, first of all? And are you excited to see how Tama Tonga is going to get on in a WWE ring for the first time, officially?
Yes. I can't quite believe it's not quite a big a deal with Kevin Owens because he's done some stuff in Ring of Honor over the years where Randy is WWE through and through. So seeing Randy Orton in a ring with Tama Tonga is mad. It's like, multiverse of madness. It's Forbidden Door stuff. It's crazy. So, look, Kevin Owens versus Solo Sikoa is a great match on any night. And Randy Orton versus Solo Sikoa is a great match on any night. So throw the four of them in the mix on Star Wars Day. And I think, like, I get this is the sort of thing you could, like, if I saw this on an episode of Raw or SmackDown, I think it would be fun, but it'd be ruined by the ads. Do you know what I mean? Like, as TV matches often are. So the fact that we're going to see this unedited in all its glory on pay-per-view, I am excited by this. Is it like a WrestleMania-worthy match? Maybe not. But all four people know what they're doing. I think this will be a very violent clash of styles, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason why it's on Backlash, because it does fit nicely. Like for the first time in a while, WWE are using this continuity that they've got now, because we obviously didn't really see Kevin Owens and Randy Orton fall out at WrestleMania. They were involved in a triple threat, but there was no animosity at the end of it. It was like Logan Paul's managed to escape again sort of thing. And they've carried that relationship through, that partnership through into here. So it kind of makes sense if Randy Orton and Kevin Owens have this friendship going. You wouldn't want to see your friend bloodied and beaten like every week, like Kevin Owens was a couple of weeks ago by Tama Tonga. So it makes sense, which is great to see in the first instance. But I think
the Warriors Code.
It's
going to be
the first time for people seeing Tama Tonga inside the ring, rather than just kind of jumping people or like being present and stuff, but actually seeing him in the match. So an interesting spot for him. And I think they'll open with this tomorrow night, because the way they've built it is they can't wait to get at each other. So it wouldn't surprise me if you go straight away with this one. The only wrinkle to that is, do we see another new member of the new bloodline introduced tomorrow night? Which again, we'll probably get a good pop. They know the crowd is going to be up for it. So if you're going to kind of introduce people and you're a little bit worried that they don't know who they are, I think people will just be excited to see someone new in France. So the crowd...
Everyone knows the Samoan werewolf, mate. Sorry, dude. Sorry. Everyone knows the Samoan werewolf.
I don't know. Like, WWE, so like a lot of WWE fans live in a WWE bubble. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's not like sort of widely known who he is. Sam, explain, like, who are we talking about in roundabout terms here?
Sorry, I got excited there. The Samoan werewolf is Jacob Fatu. So he's a cousin of the Usos and Solo Sikoa. Again, like, you don't need to be... He's been one of the guys, I want to say, on the indie scene, but he's not really been on the indie scene because he's been in MLW and they have a TV deal, and they're a big deal in their own right. They're not on the same level as WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, and TNA. They're on that rung with the NWA and GCW. I'd say personally, they're like the next rung after the A tier. But Jacob Fatu, people like Jacob Fatu and Hammerstone, they've been the people who there's been a lot of advocates for them in WWE and in AEW, but Jacob Fatu is the sort of guy who do really well in WWE. And I've been actually pitching for over a year for Jacob Fatu to come into WWE and to feud with Roman Reigns over the suggestion of him saying, I'm a member of the bloodline outside of all of this, and I never acknowledged you as tribal chief. And the fact it almost looks like they're crawling towards making that a reality, which excites me a little bit, because Jake Fatu is a big Samoan brawler, and once you've watched a few of his matches, you realize why this guy is special. And like again, he doesn't look like he's been in the gym every day of his life like Roman Reigns or the Usos, whose their transformation was incredible. He's a big, burly brawler. We're not talking Yokozuna or Rikishi here. We're just talking. This is a big dude who would.
He's more like a Umaga, like kind of like
yes,
the way.
Yes,
yeah,
Umaga, yeah. And he could be the second coming of Umaga and more. So, and guess what, boys and girls? He's been signed by the company. He works for WWE. It's only a matter of time before this guy appears. And I just think Backlash is the place, mate. They've been umming and ahhing about where I just think it has to be tomorrow. The question, though, Andy, is he one of Solo Sikoa's boys, or does he come flanked by one of the Usos, or maybe a unified Usos? Is this Civil War? I think it makes sense to be Solo, be one of Solo's hard hitters, and establish Solo and his boys as maybe the Rock's minions and what they are. But who knows where they're going to go, because they surprised us with Tama.
I think this is a vehicle to get to where they want to be for whatever comes next for Roman. And it does truly feel like a sort of new bloodline versus original bloodline. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jacob Fatu is thrown in tomorrow night to help out. And, it feels weird that two people like Kevin Owens and Randy Orton would just be fodder for, the bloodline storyline. But it's happened in the past. Like, that's what they've been used for. But it also gives them an out to say, actually, the odds were upset once again because we've got the rise of this new bloodline.
Yes.
And whenever it happens, when Roman comes back and tries to get them to acknowledge him, and he just gets set upon by a pack of wolves that are just going to absolutely destroy Roman, and people will be like, "Well, okay, these guys are legit." That, I think, is the way that they're going, and then Roman will have to call back on the Usos to say, "Yes, I got a bit power hungry by." But I only ever did what I thought was best for the family. These guys aren't acting for the family. And then this is where, if they really want to create some magic, just as they seem to be getting over their upper hand on this new bloodline, The Rock can be revealed as the true leader of the new bloodline. And then you've got this whole thing leading in. Let the family thing be its own. I'm glad the title's away from them now. They have the storyline. You've got so many things you can do with this, and I think it's great moving forward. But I'm going to christen them here as the new bloodline. I think they're picking up the win tomorrow. What about yourself?
Yeah, I do too. Because here's the thing: it's like you said about like Kevin and Randy being fodder. I don't think they are fodder. I think it's good storytelling, and I think they're both over enough. Like, again, no one disputes Randy Orton and Kevin Owens being massive wrestling stars. They just are. They can take a loss. And it could be the breakup of their friendship. Like, this is wrestling. No one stays friends forever. They, and they're both Scorpions. I've said this before. Like Randy could RKO Kevin after this in frustration. Like, we put WrestleMania behind us. I came out to help you against these two pricks. And we lost. Nah, screw it, I'm done. I'm going back to being solo Randy. I actually think them losing is almost a necessity for the continuation of these things, because they don't need the win. Oh God, Drew Gulak has been released. Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Saw that. Anyway, sorry. But yeah. So yeah, these two, they can take the loss. The story here is, as you said, mate, it's the growth of the new version of the bloodline, for the inevitable payoff to be Bloodline, the Bloodline, best Civil War ever.
Yep, I completely agree. You might have seen the comments, Mark, as I said, does bring us news throughout these kind of streams if we're on the, if we're on the air and we can't be checking, because we want to be dialed into this discussion and talking to you guys. So Mark will inevitably bring us anything that breaks on Twitter. Earlier tonight, WWE announced that they were going to do a big announcement tomorrow, and it's now been confirmed that is going to be about WrestleMania 41, probably about location, date, etc. So that's some good breaking news that we like to see. This, however, is very sad. We don't like to see people lose their jobs, but Mark has said there was rumours earlier on that NXT superstars or stars were next up to kind of have a little bit of a cut, unfortunately. And as Mark's put there, the following has been released by WWE: NXT's Daryl Mason, Vlad Pavlenko, Ezekiel Balagan, Kia Saint, Emma Diaz, Valentina Feroz, Keyshawn LaFlore, Trey Bearhill, and Julian Bowdy. The one that is interesting there, Trey Bearhill, he was involved in the breakout tournament and was jumped by Lexus King and didn't take place. And he had a little bit of a feud with Lexus King. So yeah, he's probably the bigger name out of those ones. And then obviously you did see Drew Gulak disappear off of NXT. He was part of.
He's been assassinated by He's been taken out by the D'Angelo family.
Yeah, was it No Catch Crew, or am I getting confused? Because that's the same.
Yeah, no, you are getting confused, but I know what you mean.
New Catch Republic, and then there's like the Catch Quarter Crew, or whatever it is. They have.
If you don't know, I've got
William Regal's son in that one. And anyway, Drew Gulak was part of it, and he just disappeared because of he was named in the whole like Ronda Rousey like autobiography, or like in a press tour that she was doing, that there was some stuff backstage, and it looks like they've just kind of cut ties with that. Obviously, in the current climate, not great to be named in that. And WWE and TKO presumably have done what they presume is the best thing in this situation, which is to cut ties. So sorry to hear anyone. It's never nice to kind of hear anyone has lost their job. But yeah, they sort of baked it into a storyline, but we'll see.
It's interesting. Just before it's obviously Gulak. We all know Gulak. I've known Gulak for many years with Evolve and things like that. But the only name on that Mark's comment that I recognise there is I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, but the only name I recognise is Trey Bearhill because of that tournament.
Yeah,
but I feel like as talented as he was, and he was, is the guy. There's somebody else who's kind of using his gimmick.
Already. Well, his gimmick was because he was native. He's actually part Native American. They veered into that. But yeah, I think who is it who's using the same?
I don't know. He's one of the New Japan guys that they took on. He's very good, but I forget his name because I've had a beer and it's been a long day.
It was a bit weird because I was like, hold on a second, someone who's got a very similar gimmick. So like, using the same thing. But
that worried me when I first saw it. I was like,
WWE they've gone to lengths before, by the way, to say that they, it was the way that they work for NXT is they give them a year or two, and if they're not progressing to where they would like them to be, they will cut ties and kind of move you on because they have so many people coming up. And because of the way that they do their business is they have this sort of like conveyor belt of people that they'll bring in. They'll give them a year or two. If it works out, then great. Sometimes it's big names that don't work out. People like, I think like they were quite clever with Ava, the Rock's daughter, because I think they knew there's maybe something they wanted to use there. She has that little bit of star power because maybe of who her dad is, but also she does have a little bit of something there. And they try and find a different route. And I think she's been doing all right as the NXT GM. But, I think had her dad not been that, maybe she wouldn't still be there. So it is a case of like, it's a cutthroat industry. They've got to do what is best for them as a business in terms of, are you going to make it? How much resource do we have to put in to you to get you there? And unfortunately, if you're there a year or two, it doesn't seem like you've got long left. So,
downsizing is a rather unpleasant fact of life, but all businesses do it.
Especially when you see them making as much money as they are as well. But that's how big businesses work, unfortunately.
Because I've been made redundant multiple times in my career, and
100%.
And it's like it's never nice. But the one thing I will say is I wouldn't change anything now because every single time that happened, it led me to something new and led me to a better path. So,
fingers crossed.
Sure they'll all do okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But we will move on. We are talking about Backlash tonight, and let's move on to what is quite a big match tomorrow night. It's a World Championship match after all, which is the first defense for Damian Priest against Jay Uso.
You were doing so well.
I know, and I fluffed it in the name, but it is Jay Uso. It is Yeet, Mr. Yeet, it's Jey Uso who is challenging for the title tomorrow. Jimmy Uso is nowhere to be seen. Jimmy Uso is currently injured, conspicuous by his absence at the moment. But I've been a little bit underwhelmed by this one. I feel like there's something missing in terms of a spark, and it maybe feels a little bit paint by numbers first title defense. Let's give him someone who is over with the crowd, but we're not going to put the belt on. Do you agree with that summarization, or have you got any other thoughts?
This is going to be controversial and unpopular, but I think Jey Uso is clearly the most charismatic out of the two, and arguably the breakout star of the two. But I do believe the Usos are destined to be the Usos. I think they're both destined to go into the Hall of Fame as the Usos. Now, there's a lot of people who think like Jimmy Uso is a breakout star. Jey. Oh, now I'm doing it. Jey Uso is going to be a single star in his own right. And the fact that you're underwhelmed and I'm a bit underwhelmed, I don't see it. I think the big storyline now for Jey Uso is the unification with him and his brother. I'm in that as a fan. That's the thing I want to see. I'm interested in seeing. I'm interested in the bloodline story, the thing, and the story of him wanting to escape the bloodline but not being able to escape it. That is the fact is, like, if anything even more horrible happens to his brother, he will have to show up and help him, regardless of the beef between them. That's what I want to see. I want to see Jey come out and save his brother from the next yeet down, and then be like, you know what, you're still a dick, but I'm saving you because you're my twin brother. That's what I want to see. But taking it back to this match and this feud, I think the story here is whatever goes on with Damian Priest and people, potentially Finn Balor. Finn just signed a big money deal. Re-signed. Like there's word on the street that they want to do a Cody Rhodes Finn Balor feud, which we've seen before. That we know they can put on something good. So I can't help thinking that this is just a bit of like it's going to be a great match between two great guys, but I think it's a bit of a filler between they both go off and do their own thing.
Do you even think it's going to be a good match? Like I'm going to be really negative here because I said before WrestleMania, and I'll still say it now, they've done a piss poor job of building Damian Priest up as someone who's believable as a main eventer, and he's not going to main event tonight. Let's face it, that's not happening because the main event is going to be Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles. But in terms of, they had the promo in the ring on Raw where they were like, I did say we had that night where we couldn't remember, we got a bit drunk, and I said we were going to be next, and he like kind of was like, well, I'm next, you're not, sort of thing. It was like, all right, cool. But I didn't buy into the characters. I didn't buy into the story. I feel like Damian Priest is a very good wrestler, but I don't think he's been built to be a champion, a main world champion. I've said this numerous amounts of times. Jey Uso is a good tag team wrestler, but he's lacking about 3 moves in his moveset to actually become a singles wrestler. He has no real submission move. What is his finisher? A splash or a super kick? It's going to be one, isn't it? He doesn't have another option. But what I'm saying is, if you want us to believe as an audience that the next thing isn't for Jey Uso just to go back into the Usos and be a tag team again, then make him more of an individual. Give him something that you should have done before WrestleMania to stand out from his brother. Because
Yeet's not enough. Yeet isn't enough. So
it's been said before, they are WWE's version of the Young Bucks, because all it is super kick, super kick, super kick, a Samoan drop, a splash. And yes, okay, the Young Bucks don't do a Samoan drop, and they arguably have way more moves than the Usos do, but it's always down to this whole super kick thing. And I'm like, you can't have near fall after near fall over a super kick unless you're Shawn Michaels, because that's been how it's been built. But for me, he needs an impact finisher, and he needs a submission, and he needs a signature move. Because if you've played a video game, that's kind of why they do what they do in video games, because it makes it believable that you would have a move set that would, destroy a person down to be able to get a 3 count. Now, doing the same thing over and over to me is a little bit boring, but it's making Jey Uso's life very hard to get over as a believable individual champion. I still think he would be a great IC champion or a US champion, but neither of these guys scream World Heavyweight Championship. I love Jeff Hardy when he went solo. They did a great job of building him up, and he also had a unique moveset from Matt. They haven't done the same with Jey. So this, to me, is a very underwhelming world title match.
I largely agree, because like I think I never really considered the moves thing, because I know Gunther doesn't have a finisher, but he's bloody Gunther. He could just give you a chop.
Well, he does what he has to do to get the match finished, though, which is completely different. Like he is standalone in that, because it's like he will chop you on the front, he will chop you on the back, he will splash you from the top rope, he'll lariat you, he'll powerbomb you. All of those are believable because of who he is, how he does it. He does what he has to do to finish the match. That's not the same here. This is just a case of super kick, super kick, super kick, super kick, splash.
Because I disagree a little bit with Damian Priest, because I'm of the view that, but here's the thing with Priest, he didn't win it legitimately. Me and Misfit were discussing this with IO Sky a little while ago, with the idea that just because you've won from Money in, like, okay, you've won the Money in the Bank match, but that is usually a heel, and it's usually an opportunistic heel who wins. And cashing in is opportunistic. Like, just because you're holding the belt, because you cashed in Money in the Bank, you're not legit until you've had a few title defenses. Sorry. And that's where Priest is right now, Priest, it won't be that dominant champion because he won through Money in the Bank. The storyline here is he screwed over McIntyre, and that's hilarious. But yeah, I agree. I think he's not going to squash Jey Uso, because Jey Uso is over. But what he needs to do is have some dominant wins. But I can't help thinking both of them are up against each other before they branch off into their various storylines. With Jey, it's the bloodline stuff. With Damian, it's with Rhea being gone as well. The bloodline is on the shakiest ground it's ever been on, and the irony that they've got the World Heavyweight Championship, and things are more precarious than ever. I think the storyline is important here. I hope the match is good. I've got faith that it will be, but I don't think. I think this is a match to further two storylines and two wider faction-connected stories. I don't think this is going to be one we talk about in 10 years' time.
Yeah, and I think I'm coming from a place where I'm always about the story, and I feel like the good story here was to have Drew win and CM Punk cost him, because it's all well and good having this awesome rivalry between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, but they can't do anything right now while CM Punk is in the last few weeks of his healing, or however long it's going to be. You could have had CM Punk cost Drew McIntyre again and build that Drew McIntyre is like, hey, I had a shot, and it would have made sense to have a rematch, because he was like, oh, give me a rematch. You stole the title from me because you used the Money in the Bank briefcase and stuff. That would have made logistical sense. It would have made logical sense. You then move in, you then have CM Punk cost him, which then sets it up for further down the line. Damian Priest can further his character of being a little bit shifty. He's the heel. He gets the easy win because Drew was distracted, etc. And that would have suited everything. They didn't need
I like it.
This position. And I think that's, again, for me, it was a bit of because Drew's not even on the card. And I know maybe it's because he's injured. Maybe that's why he's legitimately trying not to have big, long matches. But I think that was the route. But
I think you're right. But the only thing is, we don't know what they're going to do storyline wise involving Jey tomorrow night. So I'm going to reserve judgment. Just if they do Sweet FA, then you're 100% right, and that is what they should have done. But because McIntyre getting his crack at Priest, but also I can't help thinking that it might be what they do at Clash at the Castle.
Well, I don't know, but CM Punk's looking pretty damn good at the moment, so maybe he's going to be ready for Clash of Castle, and that would be amazing.
Well,
CM Punk
I've got two issues with that though. The first one is because I was hearing, I mean, it's Drew in bloody Glasgow. I mean, come on, because I thought if like Drew, like let's not forget with Drew, where he has become somewhat of a delusional heel, his pathway there was that of an aggressive, frustrated face. And at some point those lines have blurred. So, but in like as we saw with Rhea Ripley in Australia, Drew in Glasgow, where he lost, well, I know he technically lost in Cardiff, a different country entirely, but there's still like, my God, he in terms of, it's not his hometown per se because he's from Ayrshire, but my God, it's only an hour away. Like it is. I think Drew, they might start. It might not stick, but I think they might start transitioning Drew to be more of an anti-hero between now and Clash at the Castle. And if they can build up Damian Priest to be a super mega scumbag between now and then, that'll really work. Because my issue, like, the thing with Punk is, because I'm hearing SummerSlam for Punk. I can't. I don't know that. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I'm hearing. SummerSlam. That makes sense from where I am. It's a massive deal. SummerSlam is a bigger deal than arguably any of this. And also, I don't think they should do McIntyre Punk in Glasgow, which will instantly just make Punk the heel, which I don't think is what they want to do. So I think like at SummerSlam, that's way more tenuous. And you can have Punk as the babyface, and then you can decide who you want to be what from there. But I think Uso loses here. Priest becomes mega heel, and we go into Clash with this being their Clash match. God knows who Cody ends up going up against, but I'm sure they'll do something.
Yeah, agree with pretty much everything there. On to the triple threat, which I believe when I was reading through the comments earlier, yes, Chris Leclerc. I'm not sure if he's still watching. If you are, hello. Bayley versus Tiffany versus Naomi for the WWE Women's Championship. I'm excited for Backlash tomorrow afternoon. We are also excited to be able to say the word afternoon instead of
yes,
30 hours morning is lovely. But yeah, they were building this on SmackDown tonight. We opened with that big 8-woman tag match where it was Damage Control teaming up with Tiffany Stratton against two of the other people in this match, which was Naomi and Bayley. And then they also had Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair as well on that team. So a loaded match. They were building a little bit of tension there. They also afterwards built a little bit of tension that should Bianca and Jade win, Bianca's still coming after the title. She's not like letting that go, which is cool to see. It's not like I'm a tag team wrestler now and I don't really care about anything else, which makes sense because Bianca's very ambitious and that's who her character's been. So that was kind of cool to see. But we've got a very over Tiffany Stratton versus Naomi, which is probably why she wanted to come back to be in position like this, wrestling for the title, where she came back to the company after being away and in TNA, etc. But Bayley in her first proper big defense on a pay-per-view after winning it at WrestleMania. What are we going for? I'll tell you this straight away. Chris is saying Bayley pins Naomi. Mark is saying Naomi takes the pin and Tiffany is saved to win Money in the Bank. So both saying Naomi's going to eat the pin here from Bayley to keep Tiffany Stratton looking strong. Thoughts on that?
I agree. I think the story here is how do we keep the belt on Bayley because she's the one we've invested in at WrestleMania. Backlash is an awkward pay-per-view because the whole purpose of it, and same with Payback when they do it, is it's they're right after Mania. So if you've coronated somebody there, if you take the belt straight off them, you've kind of pissed all over their chips. Yeah. So I do think with Bayley, they've got to find a way of keeping the belt on her. Tiffany Stratton is the next shiny new toy. So they need to do a good way of making her look strong and devious. Now, Naomi would just be a victim of circumstance in this case, but the story here, the bigger story is the friendship between Bayley and Naomi breaking down. Because obviously Naomi was in TNA while Bayley was being a super bitch, leading damage control. So obviously she's come back into WWE Because I said it the other day, mate, on WhatsApp. Bailey's face turn, where it was done beautifully in execution, her personality transplant was a little bit too quick for me. So I do think that Bailey and Naomi, their friendship is the thing that's really on the line here, not the belt. And if Bailey takes advantage and pins Naomi, but maybe it's a bit nefarious, maybe, or there's some miscommunication or something like that, then Naomi would be like, you know what, Bianca was right about you. You are this. You are what they've said you are. I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and I wasn't here because you are the person I came up with. But now you have changed. Because I think the story here is that, and we've never seen Naomi as a legitimate badass heel, and I think it's time.
Yeah, she was kind of a heel when she was in the tag team with Sasha Banks at period.
Too long. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. As in, like, there's a difference between sort of being a bit bitchy and being like full on heel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see get a little bit more. I was going to say color into her character, but she's very colorful because she's got the glow, right?
Baby. The glow, baby.
I did flash it there. Apparently, Chris says June 15th is Bailey's birthday, same day as Clash at the Castle.
Love that, Chris.
Yeah, that's a great fact. Could be a huge thing for.
Oh my God!
Singing. Go on. You're very excited about something.
No, I mean, not only can we sing "Happy Birthday" to Bailey, we can sing "Hey, hey, Bailey." But which of the French we're doing? Well done, France! I'm so proud of you.
I bet you've not said that too many times before. Anyway, I did hear.
I'm a proud European, Andrew. I'll have you know that. I'm British second, English third. Go on.
Very interesting fact. Tiffany Stratton revealed that apparently a pitch name for her was going to be Veronica Swanson.
Sounds like the corporate villain in Resident Evil.
I mean, I'm glad they went with Tiffany because if I wouldn't have had Tiffy time, it would be like
Tiffy.
Ronica time, or
it's her Tiffy title. She has a Tiffy epiphany. No, she's perfect, mate. She's because you know me, I've been really dubious by the whole let's find effing people from the sodding Bachelorette or whatever to be wrestling stars. You know my thoughts on all of that. So, but with Tiffany Stratton, my God, what a success story. And it's not just because she's fit. It's because she's good in the ring and, her character work is phenomenal and she's fit. It's the three.
The interesting thing is, of this kind of new recruitment thing that they do where they get people outside of wrestling, whether it be like, people from different sports or, different industries completely. Now, she was a gymnast, but that doesn't, yes, it helps because obviously you have certain moves that you can pull off in the ring. And we see that with her sort of handsprings that she does into the corners. But that doesn't teach you character. And she's one of the ones in NXT who knows her character inside and out. And she's done very well to kind of get to where she's got. And obviously she's got people on the outside of, outside of the wrestling ring who are teaching her about like sort of how to work that character and maybe even work even better in the ring as well. So I think she's really going places. I can see her being a future WrestleMania, possibly main eventer, but definitely having a title match. So, yeah, very interesting moving forward. I think we're both in agreement there that Bailey's retaining here and Naomi's eating the pin. Tag team, where obviously I said earlier these were involved earlier on. I think this is the only title change that we see. I'll say that straight off the rip, and that this is potentially why the tag teams weren't on the line at WrestleMania, because it gives you a little bit of something to hang your hat on and say, oh, we're not just, it's not a house show.
Yeah.
We've had a title change. But yeah, I think we've got a potential title change here, which is a shame because I will say I think it will diminish Damage Control somewhat to not have the titles anymore. And they feel like these really have been fodder for Jade Cargill, by the way. Jade Cargill has just like absolutely destroyed Damage Control. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this will be quite dominant. I just don't see, unless there's a twist and maybe we see Jade turn her back on and go heel. I think that would be the better way to do it because it gives her a little bit more character steering too. But that's the only way that these don't walk out with the titles. But I personally just think this is going to be dominance again. We've seen nothing but Jade Cargill come in and destroy people so far. So, are you in agreement? Are we going to see a tag team title change here, or are we going to see a twist?
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because the more you go through this card, the more you think, well, they're retaining, well, they're retaining, well, they're retaining. So, like, they've done it before. They can have a pay-per-view where everybody retains.
Yeah.
Like, they have done that before. TNA, not everybody retained. The Digital Media Championship changed hands at the last TNA pay-per-view, but everybody else retained. And there was a ton of heel victories as well. So it was like, it felt like the end of Mania 39 once it was over. It was like, oh, I've been barraged by horrible things. But yeah, it was. They could do it. There's two predictions I've got here. Either Bianca and Jade win, because they want Cargill to look really strong, which is what leads me to believe that they're winning. And Damage Control, like Kyrie and Asuka, are both great. They can take. It's like I said earlier. They can take the loss, like Kevin Owens and Randy. They can take that loss. It's not really going to ruin their momentum massively. They're still Damage Control, and it'd be interesting, like, who are Damage Control without Bayley, and then without championships.
Yeah,
that's an exciting thing to consider, because the minute they kick out Bayley, they lose all their gold.
They've also got the fresh start on Raw because they've been drafted across to Raw. So like they could go on Monday Night Raw and it doesn't matter if they've not got the tag belts, because people just be like, oh, they're on Raw now. So they've got like a whole new raft of things they could do.
I'd be worried if Vince was still running things, because I'd be terrified that Asuka, Kyrie, and Io would all become caricatures like they have in the past. But I think under Triple H, they get it. He gets it a bit more. He understands they're warriors first. So I am confident. But I obviously, look, the idea here is Cargill needs to become #1 super bitch. And she. But if we're already going to see a heel turn with Naomi, they're not going to do that here. So I think Cargill and Bianca win here, win clean. Bianca gets the pin. No, sorry. Cargill gets the pin on Kyrie, because Asuka's a former world champion. I know Kyrie's on NXT, but but we'll and it goes from there, because they're not going to keep Cargill and Belair together forever. It'd be interesting to see where that goes.
But they're giving Jade Cargill, like, some chops in the ring, in terms of like they're letting her build it into it and maybe disguise some of the sort of like the flaws people have pointed out in a wrestling ability. But the more she does this, the more she goes on the house shows and gets those repetitions in and stuff like that. I think the better she'll be for it. And maybe this is why. It's because if she's not having a great match, just tag out. So like, leave these two together for a little while, see how things progress, and then see like where we are in terms of like her prowess in the ring. I believe that's why they've been put together, because Bianca can kind of shoulder that a little bit. And it also, quite frankly, that's a huge thing for WWE to put on Bianca, because it shows that they trust her to build up who they think is going to be the next star.
She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
We've got someone absolutely magic watching tonight. Harry Potter's watching and says it's definitely going to be Bayley who wins tomorrow.
Well, isn't that wizard?
What an absolute fact machine Chris is turning in tonight. If Bianca Belair wins the WWE Women's Championship back, she can't win the championship. He must be in the tag team championship.
Yeah, that's what he means.
She will be the 5th woman to become a Triple Crown winner.
Ooh, dead cert, you ask me. Because Corey Graves is going to bang on about that on commentary. You just know.
Have we seen Io Sky since WrestleMania?
No, she's licking her wounds. So there's a lot of wound licking going on this year, right now.
Maybe she comes back and costs them the title and say, well, why didn't you guys help me? But that would be an interesting one. It might actually, like, they don't need them all together, right? That's a few too many people.
I think they do for a bit. I think they need to have this idea where they're like, right, we kick out Bayley, we've got WrestleMania, and before you know it, all the gold is gone.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
because I love the idea of them being a united front, but they're trouble in paradise. Because this is wrestling. There are two types of stable. There is the stable who are on top, and they've got all the gold, and then there's the stable with fractures. And the heel stables, like the NWO, or like we call it the Bullet Club curse, don't we? The Bullet Club curse is not, in fact, the Bullet Club curse. The Bullet Club curse is the heel stable curse. It's been going on for about 40 years. So I love the idea of maybe Asuka or Kairi that maybe thinking, you know what, what do we need you for, Io? So there's lots of good stuff they can do. Yeah, lots of good stuff they can do.
Watch this space is what I'm saying. It might not happen the way we think it is. Maybe there's like different things that will happen tomorrow night, but I don't see any way around that tomorrow night we'll see new women's tag team champions, and it sounds
can't wait.
Same. And it is a short card because I did tell you at the beginning of the show, we're going to wrap things up by speaking about what will be the main event. We're going to be talking about, I feel like I shouldn't say the phenomenal one, otherwise some French people are going to turn up and start hijacking the stream with that. Really
no, do it.
The phenomenal one, AJ Styles, is going up against the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, in the first defense on the pay-per-view for Cody. We spoke about it at the beginning. We feel like this is more of a who's the better wrestler. There's not a lot more to add to this because they haven't put too much meat on the bone, enough to make you want it, but not enough to kind of go into it in any great detail. But what I will ask you is, in the first few weeks after WrestleMania, what have you made of Cody Rhodes' title reign so far?
The first thing I'm going to say is I can't unsee the hair advert thing now. I just can't unsee it. It's dry. Look, I love it. I love it because it's taking me back to the idea that it's okay to have a heel, babyface champ who is just there. And look, they can't keep wheeling out Cody and him going, shucks. They've got to eventually start moving. But Roman losing his belt to Cody was a long story after a long reign for Roman. So I keep hiccuping. So I get that the I've won, I'm the new champ tour. I get why they've been kind of indulging that. So stop it, Mark. You're making me laugh. I get why that has been necessary, but now it's the next pay-per-view, and he's a babyface. He's a fighting champion, so it's time to get down to business. And AJ, you're up against AJ. You're not up against some slouch. You're up against how many times has this guy held the WWE Championship? At least twice, 3 times maybe.
I'm sure Chris can tell us.
Chris, where you at? Where's Misfit when I need it as well? It's becoming like catchphrase now. To me, this is as a long-time wrestling fan of all of the major promotions, and I mean that this is a dream match for me because I've never seen it, and I'm going into this with it being a dream match. So, but with Cody, I'm digging it. Like you asked me, how are you finding Cody so far? I still feel I'm living in a bit of a daze, mate. When his music comes out, I'm hyped, I'm pumped. I feel like it's John Cena again, Stone Cold again. I feel like I'm meant to feel. I get it. Like they will falter eventually, potentially, maybe. I don't know. But right now, this is what it's meant to look like when you've got a babyface champion at the top of the card. This is it. And it's been so long and so many, it's so easy to have a heel champion and for them to be such a dick and then someone to come up against them and then they cheat and they win. The hard thing is doing what they're doing right now with Cody. This is the hard part. And they're doing it well. And I think if they went straight from the Roman Reigns thing into a bitter, aggressive blood feud, it wouldn't work. This is the right call because it's two guys who we know are brilliant, going up. It's a former WWE champion going up against the current WWE champion. That's all we need. Yes, and there's some Dusty Rhodes connection there. There's the Bullet Club connection. This is beautiful. It's less is more. It's understated. There's some. They're digging into the history, particularly with TNA, New Japan, and Ring of Honor with the Bullet Club and the Dusty Rhodes stuff. You wouldn't have seen that under Vince, but you do see it under Triple H because he respects the others. I love this, mate. And you want to know how I feel about Cody as champion right now. I feel right now about Cody as champion as I felt the minute he won that at Mania. That is how I feel.
Yeah. AJ Styles is a two-time WWE champion, by the way. You were right with your instincts. I have a feeling this is, or I don't know if it comes across this way to anyone else. This feels very NWA style.
Yes.
Nick Aldis as champion, and he's very respectful with the belt. Like, this is my belt. Bring it as a challenger. You don't need much for storyline, but this is like a wrestler's thing. And I think they've done that on purpose because, as you said, they've come out of this like major storyline, this all-encompassing storyline for the last few years with the Bloodline, Cody Rhodes. Now it's just a case of like, let's give something to the wrestling purists. And this is why I said at the top, give them a little while, just give them a chance to kind of prove why WWE and how WWE can do great wrestling matches, not just storylines. And these two are great for that. And I think they'll have a banger. I think it'll be one of those ones where you go, actually, that might be on my list at the end of the year. That was one of the best matches, and that's what AJ Styles can offer. He is getting on there. I think he's very publicly said he's winding his years down in wrestling. I think he's in what he said is his final contract.
Oh man!
And then if that's true, this is all about giving back to the industry and the business. And just solidifying himself as a great wrestler, because I don't think he gets another world championship. I could be wrong. I just don't see it. But I also think he's going to go out and have a few more bangers.
Sorry, mate, go on. So,
you think he can have another world championship reign?
Nah, I was going to say I've got another prediction, and you're not going to like it. I think AJ finishes up with WWE, nothing to prove. Like Edge, nothing to prove. Daniel Bryan, nothing to prove. And you know where I'm going with this. And signs with AEW for a year or so. I'd swear to God.
Why? So all I'm going to ask is, but why? Because is he going to go across there and be their champion?
Well, because there's two reasons. One of them is, and there's no disrespect meant to anybody when I say this, but one reason is mad money. The second reason is curiosity. That's it. Edge and Bryan Danielson didn't need to do it. They didn't need the kudos. They didn't need the dosh. They didn't need the. They did it just to see what it's like on the other side, because Daniel Bryan and Edge are both close. Like, you got to remember. I know AJ's a bit different because he's never been through what they've been through. In terms of having to retire due to injury, then by a miracle of medical science coming back, going out on your own terms, doing everything that you want to do in then WWE, and then thinking, right, where am I? What do I do? What haven't I done yet? And like Daniel Bryan and Edge don't need to win the AEW belt over there. They just need to. No, I know what you're thinking. I can hear your thoughts, but.
It's not. It's more because Edge and to an extent Daniel Bryan, Edge especially. So let's take Edge. Edge never had the opportunity to wrestle anywhere else because he was WWE. He did a few years on the Indies before, but in terms of major promotions, Edge didn't do that. So that was why he was like, let me go see how another promotion does it. I don't know what he feels now. Looking, in hindsight, it's a different, completely different beast, but. Edge did his thing. He's now gone across and he's working for another major promotion. Daniel Bryan worked very heavily on the indies. He still felt like he had a lot to offer. Vince at the time obviously didn't. I don't know if he'd make the same choice if Triple H was in charge when he was there towards the end of his career. I don't know if he would. But what I would say with AJ Styles is AJ Styles has been the face of another franchise, another promotion. I don't think he'd have the same itch to scratch. If you watch some of the stuff he said in interviews, he talks about when he knew it was going to be time to hang it up when he loses a step. And then he started in interviews saying, there's certain things I don't do night in and night out anymore. I've noticed the guys are doing things I'm not willing to do. And he's kind of mentioned that's the time. I think he's the kind of guy who's actually like, I am ready just to spend time with I think he's like 4 or 5 kids and just play video games. And he might have another match in Japan. Like, and that's where the extent of it. But I don't see him moving to AEW.
I don't mean long term. But what I mean, because here's the thing, like because I see more similarities between AJ and Bryan Danielson than I do anyone else. Because, like AJ, Bryan Danielson was somebody who made his name somewhere before WWE. He was the American Dragon, for God's sake, and that means something. Like, my lord, even when AEW say it and wang it around and wave it around, they don't understand what they're saying when they say that. The same way the CM Punk lot in AEW and WWE don't understand what they're saying when they say the best in the world, and because they weren't there for it. They didn't see what we saw in that heyday of Ring of Honor. That applies to a few other people, but mainly Punk and Bryan. But AJ's another one like that with TNA and somewhat New Japan too. So I can't help thinking with AJ, don't need the money, don't need the kudos, but he might have an opportunity just to go back and find that previous version of himself and interconnect that version of him with the awesome version of him he's established in WWE as well, and bring it full circle. I don't think he necessarily needs to be an AEW champion. I just think even if he has a 1 year, 2 year run, has some fresh matches with people he's never wrestled before, just little things like that, because sometimes that's what it's about. It's about wrestling the people you've not wrestled yet. And sometimes that's enough, like Ospreay versus Danielson, for example, is a massive, that was worth the damn wait, flipping heck. And I feel like with AJ, I can't help thinking with AJ, like, he might not, but that to me.
No, I completely get your point as to why.
I kind of hope I see it, because I do feel that we're coming to an end of the AJ Styles, of the WWE AJ Styles.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad. So,
well, I mean, a quote that he said is in an interview was, "There's definitely a finish line somewhere in the future. Listen, I enjoy this, I really do. It's just I don't want to get to a point where I've said this before. You're going, oh man, maybe it's time for him to get out. I don't want to get to that point. I feel pretty good right now. I really do." So I think that's a man who's very aware of like outstaying his welcome. And I think people like Undertaker said it and have probably regretted it a little bit, in terms of he never wanted to become, a send up of himself or and anything like that. And I think towards the end he maybe was, but
maybe
history. It doesn't matter whether he goes to AEW or not. History will remember AJ Styles in professional wrestling as one of the best to do it.
Yes.
Whether we ever 100% saw that in WWE is very debatable.
I think we did,
Well, okay. Well, I think that's a discussion for another night. We will wrap things up, but let us know in the comments. Do you think we ever saw the very best AJ Styles in his career inside the WWE ring, or has it come elsewhere?
I've got one match to say.
Yeah.
One match. You know which one it is, don't you?
Are you going to say the triple threat match, or are you going to are you talking WWE?
I'm talking WWE.
Oh, okay.
The one
Boneyard match.
I love that. I fucking love that. Oh, pardon my French. No. There's sorry, guys.
Right, we're an hour and 10 in. I think we'll be okay.
We're good. Yeah, we should be all right. Actually, no. There's two for me with AJ. The first one is the one where Paul Bray got diverticulitis and couldn't compete, so they rotated Finn Balor. Now that Finn Balor AJ match, Balor won it, but after the match, the first two Bullet Club leaders are there, exhausted, battered, bruised. They throw up the two sweet and they do it. What a moment.
Yeah.
And that was under Vince. And then, but everybody there knew what that meant, knew the significance of it. But what makes that even better is the match is brilliant. Just so good. But here's the other one. Here's the one that made me... No, that's good. Oh, yeah, that was a great feud. But it went on too long. That was great. But the one I love, the AJ Styles match, I'll never forget, is and he lost this one too, but Brock Lesnar, where he had Brock in the calf crusher and where Brock eventually outstrengthened him and smashed him down and pinned him. Brock was the one who went limping up the ramp, where AJ got up, shook himself off, and walked. And it was like, because AJ's my height, and went toe to toe with. Actually, no, I'm an inch taller than him, but he still went toe to toe with Brock Lesnar in such a super. And it was just brilliant. And what was great about that match as well is it fed into the Rollins story, with Rollins going, I know your weakness, Brock. Your match against Balor, your match against AJ and Bryan, I know how to take you down, because every single one of them showed a chink in your armor. But that Brock Lesnar AJ match was one of my favorite matches in modern WWE. So for me, that is where we saw AJ's pinnacle. Never mind his matches with Tanahashi or Shinsuke in New Japan, which were wonderful.
No, the one that everyone will always go back to, sure, is that triple threat match with Chris.
Yeah, but
Samoa Joe.
I'm not the biggest fan of Christopher Daniels, but I am of AJ. So for me, it was Shinsuke AJ, it was Shinsuke Tanahashi, Shinsuke Balor, Shinsuke Brock for me. And Samoa Joe. But if we're going to go with TNA, bloody hell, where do we start? Because the AJ match is in TNA.
We don't. That's a discussion for another night. And we'll cross that when AJ Styles ever decides to either move to another company or hang the gloves, the gloves, or the hair.
He's going to take his hair off.
Yeah. We'll discuss that at length, as will the rest of the wrestling industry as well. But let's hope he adds at least one more match to that long list that you just said there. Let's see what they do. We've been joined last minute by some people from Gimme a Hell Yeah, which we already are, obviously, but someone is messing around the backside of our stream. Is it Dom? We've also got Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling, and if you watched last week, you would have seen we did have Scott on for the draft. He says, bonjour, lads. Big weekend in WWE. Keep up the great work. Right back at you guys. Yeah, I think it'll be Scott. If it's someone else, same for you as well. I hope you enjoy a lovely weekend of wrestling, because we've got TNA tonight under siege. Make sure you check that out. We've got Backlash tomorrow night. All that good. Well, tomorrow afternoon, evening, whatever you want to kind of call it. But I really hope you've enjoyed us speaking about it at great length. If you're watching this before, I hope this has hyped you up. Make sure you check out our other channels that we've got going on, which is either Gimme a Hell Yeah, Wrestling Royalty. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you go check out our interview with Joe Henry, which is live now on both Soundsphere and WrestleSphere. So make sure you check those channels out as well. We are going to be doing a stream tomorrow night on Gimme a Hell Yeah. Well, Sam and Dan, I believe, are going to be doing a watch along of Backlash. Is that right? Yeah.
You're welcome to join us. Yourself, Dom, and Ant are welcome to join us if you want. You've got the bloody login. You know what you're doing. But yeah, Andy, I'm going to pull out now. I'm going to pull out early, as it were. Dom, shush. I can already hear the jokes. I'm going to go have a wee, grab a beer, and I'm going to jump onto our other stream where we're doing some Uncle Howdy stuff. So I'm going to exit prematurely.
Bye.
Au revoir. Au revoir.
The French, that's why the French don't like us British people. But I'm going to leave it there as well, because I implore you to go join Dom and Sam over on the Howdy Hangout, which you can watch on Gimme a Hell Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us. I know it's been a little bit of a longer one than we expected, but a lot to talk about. It might be a B pay-per-view, but in the best sense possible. I think there's a lot to look forward to, both going in and coming out of the Backlash pay-per-view. If you would be so kind, make sure you do hit that subscribe button, both here and Gimme a Hell Yeah. Make sure you go subscribe to Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling as well. They're good friends of our channels, do some great content. They'll be getting you hyped up, I'm sure, with a preview show leading in. And then you can do the watch along with the guys on Gimme a Hell Yeah. So if you are watching this, I'm going to end it. You have a lovely weekend. I would normally say he's been Sam and I've been Andy, but it's just down to me. So I've been Andy. This has been Wrestling Royalty and Gimme a Hell Yeah. Have a great weekend.